in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
I don't know what it is, but it's phenomenal.
All right, people, we're going to try something a little different today.
I cannot solve your problem, sir. Only you can.
Am I missing something?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
The reality is humans are humans are humans, and that's never going to end.
No, I do mind. The dude minds. This will not stand.
It's a big, big deal.
Hello. You speak English, sir? Parlo usted English?
60% of the time, it works. Every time.
I've done the math on this. We've talked about it on this show before. That's a fact.
You'll learn a little something about yourself.
That's us, dude.
That's why we're radio show hosts.
That's right.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Let's do this.
Discussing issues that matter to you. Finding real answers using logic and reason. KLZ 560 presents Rush to Reason. Now, here's your host, John Rush.
All right, I'm your host, John Rush. Rush to Reason, KLZ 560. Again, Steve Laffey, my good friend, with me for this next hour. So we enjoy talking to Steve. Thanks for your time. Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for all that you're doing for us. And just the camaraderie that we've got. I appreciate it, Steve.
Yeah, you're a good man. I always love being on the show. And miss Dan and so forth. Miss being around you guys right now, but soon we'll be back. We'll see.
Well, and again, understand. I appreciate that very much. And all right, let's continue to talk a little bit about China. So we left off you talking about basically, which nobody really ever talks about, and I don't think this is publicized all that greatly. But what kind of military strength does China even have?
Not much compared to the United States of America. I mean, they do spend, and we don't really know the numbers, but their growth in military spending is, up to $120 billion a year, roughly speaking. We're at 600, whatever it is. And so not as much, and certainly the stuff that they produce is not very good. So, but they do have some things. For example, they test this hypersonic missile that I've spoken about. It doesn't make the news hardly at all, certainly not as much as something going on in Russia or who's having a meeting with Russians. But the hypersonic missile is a particular danger because it's a missile that we can't stop right now, and they've tested it successfully a number of times. So they do have certain things. Do they have nuclear submarines? Of course they have nuclear submarines. Are they noisier than ours? Yes, they are noisier than ours. So 10 years ago, when I started really talking about this, it would have been a lot easier to stop this terrible relationship with China, which we give them all of our extra cash, seemingly. They use it to oppress people and build up their military. How can that be like a really good relationship? Like that's where excess money goes when people walk around with T-shirts that say "Made in America," that say, "I love America," but they're made in China. I was in a store traveling across the country, and there were some flags. The flags were made in China. I'm like, look at the store owner. You're going to be kidding me. I just came out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where the Amish people are.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking the stuff's made by Amish people. You're shopping in stores, you're getting a candle, whatever it might be, right? Some root beer some kids are selling root beer, which had to be made in America, I hope. And homemade root beer, they're calling it. But a lot of this stuff, I'm looking at the store, I'm like, man, you know that most of the stores made in China? Like, what are we doing? Why am I here? I'm looking for the Amish stuff.
Wow.
So everywhere you go, but people around me, there's thousands of people doing this stuff. And, it's summertime, and people go to places like Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and visit with the Amish. And the Amish people are there working. And but the stuff's made in China, except for what they had. They made some candles. There's one big place. So I feel I'm the only person who actually asks or cares. Do the people who are buying stuff in Amish country think it's made in Amish? It's not.
Interesting.
Do they not know? Does no one check the tags? Am I the only one who does? I don't know anymore.
I mean, I'm reading an article on Business Insider real quick. I just pulled it up. Just basically Googled, the difference between the U.S. military and the Chinese military. And so the article goes on, talks about all the differences in spending and in the force and so on. But basically, it kind of concludes by saying a couple of things here. By its own admission, China has deficiencies in training, cooperation between services, administration, human capital, force development, and logistics. And then it goes on to say that essentially China has done a really good job of, in essence, leveraging every possible source of national power, from domestic propaganda and currency manipulation to cyber espionage and military reform. In other words, the threats of China are coming more in the form of, currency manipulation and cybersecurity than it is in their actual own military.
But that's a very true statement. And my point to add to that would be, if you're the leader of the free world, or you're the 100 senators who are all, 99 of them at least, totally out to lunch on almost all these issues now, don't represent the American people on health care, don't want to do what's right, forget it. But their job is to look out like 15 years. And wouldn't it be a policy if you looked out 15 years and say, all right, so wait a second. Who was the guy who let their generals wander onto our warships a couple of years ago and go in and out of aircraft carriers taking pictures? Who was that? Who did that? They should be brought up on treason.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Barack Obama.
Right.
This has all happened, folks. So why would it be our thought process that somehow by placating them, oh, yeah, you want to look at one of our aircraft carriers? Come on aboard. Why would we do that? We know that they steal military secrets. We know that they want technology. In order to operate in China, you give up your technology to them in many cases. So they use that technology because they stink at inventing themselves.
Yeah.
Whether it's Islam or communist, those types of societies stink at coming up with really good stuff. They just do. They're not innovative people.
No, they're not. They're not. No, and I've talked about that in the past, and I've had some interesting comments from folks listening when I mentioned that in general, and this is not a blanket statement, but in general, we invent a lot of things, and other countries, Asia specifically, and I know this for a fact from being in the auto industry as long as I've been in it, specifically Asia does a good job of copying, redesigning, and in some cases improving on a design that we Americans came up with in the first place.
That's right. And
happens all the time.
Think anybody listening today, aren't you ticked off that when you take a prescription drug, you don't even know where it's made? It's likely it was made in China?
Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, great point.
Is that okay?
Great point.
It's okay with me.
No,
so,
I
so
hear you. Well, it's been so bad in the past at our trade show that happens once a year. SEMA, it's called, down in Las Vegas. It's typically in the fall, and typically speaking, Steve, in the past, and this is funny. So for the longest time, they kept the Chinese manufacturers out of that show. Slowly but surely, these guys started figuring out a way through the back door in, and what they found was happening was these Chinese specifically would come into the show, secretly take pictures of products, go back home, make the product all over again, ship it back in, and now it's gotten to the point where they just finally gave a big section of the Chinese and they just show up with all their wares.
Right.
It's just, and it's almost like, wait a minute, time out. You guys, instead of fighting them, you just gave up? That's essentially what happened there.
And I was telling some people in the steel industry, and there's other industries, do you think that just having lobbyists right now is okay? And no one will listen. I'm like, you need to get people like Samuel Adams rabble-rousing. So when Donald Trump visits Western Pennsylvania or visits someplace in Michigan, 10,000 people show up with signs that say, why'd you break your promise? Why is the trade deficit higher? He only reacts to this kind of stuff. So how much longer will the President of the United States walk around saying, oh, we're going to make it in America. I got those 60 jobs. What are you joking? This whole thing's a joke.
I agree.
60 jobs. These guys didn't go to Mexico because I talked to the company. The trade deficit is larger with China than it was a year ago.
I agree. All right, we'll continue on.
Down by 50%.
Hold that thought. We'll come back. Don't go anywhere. Affordable Interest Mortgage. We're trying to get hold of Kurt. We'll get him on in just 1 minute. In the meantime, let's do this. Ryan Wood is coming up next, and Ryan is a guy that when it comes to things going on in your world, when it comes to the economy. So you want to do Kurt first, then Ryan? Let's do that. We'll do Ryan in just 1 minute. So hold tight. We'll talk about Ryan in just 1 minute. Before we do that, Kurt Rogers, our Monday Mortgage Minute. Kurt, welcome. What's going on, man? Hello, Kurt.
Hello, guys.
There we
go.
How you doing? What's going on, man?
Just trying to stay busy. Figuring out how we can get people out of those high interest rate mortgage and the MI loans that they have, and then the other ones.
Got it. Makes total sense to me. And I know that a family member of mine, you two have been in conversation. So I appreciate you doing that, and a lot of good advice going on. In fact, some of that advice you could probably pass on to folks today. So when it comes to actually going out shopping, looking at homes, there's been some appreciation in homes. What do folks need to look at when it comes time to maybe, hey, when is it time to get out of the house I'm in now, cash out of it, make a little money, and move to the next one?
Well, there comes a point, and with a family member, we talked about. I can tell he's related to you by the questions he asked, because they were very, very intense. So they were very good about just that question: should I buy this house? And if it does this, how does it work? So we spent the better part of probably 45 minutes going through. Well, if you sell this one now versus selling it then, and the rates go to here, which they should go. Here's what you're looking at. So if you wait, the savings really isn't that much, because just because your payoff is less doesn't mean you gain it, because the value of that house is going up.
Yep.
So
good point.
We had quite a good conversation. And you know me, I'll just call me up and ask me the scenario, and I'll run it and tell you what the numbers are.
Which is what you're there for, 720-895-0500. And we know interest rates are going to go up. That's something that you know is going to happen in the near future. Are they fairly decent still right now?
Yeah, they're fairly decent right now. I got to tell you, the new loan program that came out, those folks that have, a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or some other kind of credit history that they're 6 months to a year away, there's a new program out now. You can actually get into the home you want to buy, not pay extra to get it, rent it for the 6 months to a year, take your first and security as your down payment, and own the home.
Got it. Okay, and you can talk to people about that if they call you?
You bet I can.
All right, 720-895-0500. Kurt Rogers, our Monday Mortgage Minute. Kurt, as always, it's great having you. Appreciate it very much.